I'm Nick Filardi.
I'm Jason Thielbar.
Welcome to the world's second finest podcast. Welcome to the Two Read Pile, where Jason and I tackle whatever else we have lying around. Movies, television, comics, whatever. Amazon affiliate links are below. If you are in a comic book desert or can't seem to find whatever it is we're talking about, you can click those links. It helps out the podcast, but always go to your local comic shop.
Yes.
Also, the show is on YouTube. If you like a little bit of art, check it out. I sprinkle a little bit of art, sometimes covers, sometimes a little bit more. Check it out on youtube.com/Nickfil. Jason, what are you pulling off the Two Read Pile?
It's a book. It's an actual book. I read Amnesia Moon by Jonathan Lethem. It was just a book that I had picked up at a while back at the wonderful local used bookstore that we have here in this part of Connecticut called the Book Barn. In
a great spot, by the way.
Yeah, in lovely Niantic, Connecticut. They actually have a few locations. If you're anywhere at all near the area or ever going to be in the area, go to the Book Barn. Go to your local used bookstore as well. After you go to your local comic book store, go to your local used bookstore. They're fantastic places. I picked this nice hardcover book up for $4.
Nice. The Book Barn downtown has comic books, and I went there with my brother and was going through some stuff and picking some stuff out. And I remember my brother being like, "So are you gonna read all those?" And I was like, "Okay, so these are part of a storyline that I only have 3, 4, and 6 of. So I'm not reading these yet, and I'm picking up these so that I can, when I find the rest of it down the line, and I'm almost done with this set, and I can finally read it then." And he's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
And hey, you know what? And I'm here to say that do not feel no one listening to this, don't feel any kind of shame over buying a pile of books and never reading them. It is more than okay. You're never going to read every book anyway. You're never going to read every book you want to read anyway.
The last time I was at the Book Barn, I know it is a little bit of a tangent, and I'm cutting into your time here.
No. Talk up the Book Barn, man.
I was flipping through the used comics. They had like a small section. It was basically unorganized, just like threw a bunch of comics into some bins, and I was going through it, and I was expecting stuff from like the last 10 years kind of thing, just like whatever comic shops were like liquidating, they couldn't sell whatever. But there was a lot of stuff in there. There was like vintage Valiant stuff. Like someone dropped a collection of like 90s Valiant stuff into the Book Barn. And I was like, if I was collecting this stuff, I would be in heaven. I would just scooped all this up, but like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. So I was like, whatever. It's fine. I'll leave it there for somebody else.
Oh, early 90s Jason loved Solar Man of the Atom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, give me a cosmic superhero, man.
Some of that was in there for sure.
Shit, yeah. But yeah, Amnesia Moon by Jonathan Lethem. It's a sci-fi book. It's really, really well done. It's really snappy. Yeah, so like you're like thrown right into this like post-apocalyptic world, like somewhere in Wyoming. It's like where the story starts, and you very quickly train in on this main character who goes by the name of Chaos, because like it's just this like desolate wasteland in Wyoming, and some apocalypse happened, and this guy Chaos just like he just lives in an old abandoned movie theater and like gets drunk off of like post-apocalypse grain alcohol.
Nice.
And he's just like kind of trying to make it through, and it's too much to go into to like what like certain things that transpires, but like to keep it short, like there are dreams that have effects on reality, that have actual effects on reality. And what's really cool I found about this book is not only are you just dropped in media res like that, but like you're also um there's no one can remember what caused the apocalypse. Like most people can't even remember their names before the apocalypse, or like their lives, you know.
Sure.
They just only remember waking up one day and everything being different, and they're already an adult, but like they don't remember their past. They don't, like, you know. And so it starts to and then it just like kind of turns into a road trip where the main character Chaos meets with this other character who's this young teenage girl who's covered in fur. She's just some sort of mutant, you know, something, but she's also like totally okay with it. Like within the book, there's like never a time where she's like ashamed of, like, you know, like they'll go to different towns and like people will like start to notice her and she's just like, yep, what's up? It's like it's never described as her like being shamed of being this like furry like 13-year-old. You know, like which I thought was great. And this book was written in like 95 or 96, I think. And so like all sci-fi books of that era, of course, it has to end up in like San Francisco for a time.
Is that a sci-fi thing from the 90s? I didn't know that.
Well, there were just like a lot of like sci-fi writers that ended up sort of in Silicon Valley or were already like from there, you know. So like,
oh, okay, that makes sense.
Just, yeah, like sort of like lived around there. Like in Star Trek, like, you know, the Federation home base is in San Francisco. Right. You know.
Yeah.
But the story gets a bit weirder, and like they end up, so like they start discovering these other places when they go on a road trip that are also post-apocalyptic, but like in wildly different ways. Like this town, they end up in this town that the entire so they left a place where it looked like a nuclear bomb dropped, you know. And then they happen upon this town that's an entire society that's based around luck. Like they measure your luck in the society, and like that determines certain privileges you can or can't have. And every citizen has like a citation book, and if you act out of order, you get written a citation, and you have to move once a week. And there is television and electricity and plenty of food, except the only thing on the television are shows starring government stars who are who are by science, because they have science apparently, it's never explained, by science are the luckiest there and therefore the best of society, and that's why they're in the government, you know. And it gets even, believe it or not, kind of gets even weirder. And I think it would take too long, and I didn't write like a real synopsis of this, so to get into it. But it does like bring up what I really dug about it, and what really like kept me like reading and turning the page. Like I finished the book pretty quickly, and it's a nice, smooth, easy read too. So, you know, if anyone's thinking of picking it up, if you haven't picked up a book in a while, I think this would be a good thing to pick up. You know, it's not very dense. The style is quick, and everything's like nice and tight. But it does, to me, it made me start thinking about what it says about what makes up who we are, and identity and memory, and how shaky that can be. You know, it's like what good are memories? Like if memories make up who we are, or a lot of who we are, like what does it matter if we can't remember them? Or, you know, like, does that mean that you're still not the same person and not responsible for those actions if you literally have nothing in your head of what you used to be, you know? Or is there actually some sort of like baseline you that no matter what is always there? Like all that, like I just love that kind of shit. And it doesn't propose really any kind of answers to it either, at least as far as I could tell.
We read I read Upgrade Soul that I brought to the podcast a while back, that was proposing kind of the same thing about like identity and memory and like what makes a person a person. I love stuff like that, and also a very sci-fi comic book. about
Yeah.
cloning and memory and stuff like that.
Yeah, I should start that again. That was one of those that I put down for no reason. I still have it.
Yeah, definitely worth a read.
Yeah, but yeah, Amnesia Moon, and then not that this video, especially by this time, will need my help. I just need to talk about it. But at this point, I think it has 4.2 million views and was released over the weekend. But the YouTuber H Bomber guy, better known as Harry, is
we're talking about the YouTube demonetization stuff
or plagiarism.
Plagiarism. Yeah, I saw some people talking about this, but I haven't dug into it yet.
Holy shit, man! It is.
Yeah.
And if you didn't watch his previous video where he investigates the Minecraft oof sound effect,
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Yeah. So it's like the same. I mean, I've loved his videos anyway. I've been a big fan of his for a while. But like, my God, like it's holy shit. Like I just like it was just amazing. It was just amazing the story that unfolded, and I won't give any of it away. I think everyone should watch it. But
it's also like 4 hours long too, just a heads up.
Oh yeah. I definitely watched it in chunks like over the weekend, I didn't sit down and like watch the whole thing. Though I will say yesterday, I had an hour left and the Minnesota Vikings are on a bye week this week. So when I was watching football, I was like, I'll only have an hour left of this. And yeah, most of these games kind of suck right now. Anyway, all right, I'm going to put this on mute, So, but big recommendation, Amnesia Moon, Jonathan Lethem, check it out. And again, I think that like, if you're trying to get back into reading prose, I think science fiction is probably a pretty good avenue to do that because you can find a lot of like really engaging, fun stories in there. That aren't some sort of like, you don't always need to start off with like the Brothers Karamazov or something. Like you don't need to impress anybody. Like it's okay.
Sure.
Yeah. But Amnesia Moon, and for the love of God, I just want more people that I know personally to have watched the video so I can talk more about it. So
does he get into plagiarism on YouTube that's happening amongst YouTubers, like people plagiarizing each other? Is that what's going on?
It's people plagiarizing each other and also other writers and sources, books and articles. A lot of it too, he focuses on how, and he brings up like a really good point that that people who plagiarize and also sort of like he pointed out that some of the people he used as examples of plagiarists, that a lot of them think in this like they're like people with business degrees, and so like they sort of like look down on creative people because to them it's just a product, right? And so they don't have like these serial plagiarists like don't have any kind of respect, not only for the person they're stealing from, but for the thing that it's doing, because to them, it's worthless. To them, like, and someone else brought up, I think on Twitter, that like, that's what these like AI bros fucking think of.
100%.
Yeah. Cause like to them, like the thing that you're doing is only a product and it's not actually worth anything, and any work you put in it is silly, and like you should feel good that I'm just like, so who cares that I'm taking it from you? It's not like you really did anything with it. Like, it's just, which I thought was like a really good point. I had never thought about, it that way before. Honestly, I never thought about how fucked up that kind of thing is,
Sure. They should really teach art should be mandatory, and especially art history should be mandatory for high school kids. Because I feel like there's such a focus on like STEM and then sports in high school that we're seeing now in our society or at least it feels this way for me. We're seeing a lot of people who are like smart people in STEM or whatever, who just do not know how to interact with art at all.
Yeah.
Whether it's paintings, whether it's movies, whether it's whatever, they don't understand just making a thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is because I don't think there's enough focus in any sort of like STEM education on the actual like act of creating, right? Because like being like if I'm like if I'm working in a biology lab, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like most of the procedures that I'm going to be doing day to day are already like they're already made for me, right? And like that's
you're
like
following a protocol.
Yeah, but there are times where you have to make a new protocol, right? And so that's when you have to get into the business of, in terms of being a scientist, where you're having to be creative and you're having to iterate and reiterate and try things just ad fucking nauseum until you find the right goddamn thing, you know?
Right.
But I don't think enough of them do that. Like they don't get to that point. And the training, I don't think ever prepares them for that, because the kind of people who like actually like make the protocols are typically the ones in charge and the ones who've been doing it for a while, you know?
Sure.
And so like I think that like too often someone will like go to school, let's say for like computer science, right? But it's like you're not, most of those people aren't like making new programming languages themselves, you know, like they're engineers. Like a lot of them are engineers. Right. Like they're following these preset things. And there's not to say that there's not any creativity in engineering, you know, but it's just that you know, a lot of people don't usually find themselves in a position to have to be creative, at least in their professional lives. And so I think that they look at an artist and they think that like it's just a process that they're following, you know,
right?
Just like they are. It's like, oh, well, I got taught this, you got taught something else. We're both just following a process here.
It's the same. It's the same kind of thing when somebody starts doing art and they're like, hey man, what brush do you use? As if that's gonna unlock. Yeah. Like, oh, now you're using the good brush. You're doing good work. It's like, no, it's just time in the chair. It's just you being like creative with yourself as you sit in the chair, and then that gets better and better and better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that like, and someone else had pointed this out too, but like, you know, like one of the reasons why, like, at least like in terms of like, you know, people being exploited for it will suck, and people's hard work being stolen sucks. But like, I'm not afraid of AI art, you know, because it's bad.
It's pretty bad. And it's also, it's not going to do anything new ever.
Well, and it's not going to do anything interesting, because I forget where I saw someone point this out, but like, you're never going to have a machine give you a creative mistake, you know, like guitar distortion is because an amp broke at some point. It broke. And then a human heard the sound though and was like, hey, that sounds pretty cool, you know?
Yeah.
Or like famously the kind of signature sort of like feedback whine that's on a lot of Siamese Dream, Smashing Pumpkins Siamese Dream, is because like their old equipment when they were very first starting out, like their guitars were so shitty that Jimmy Corrigan and James Iha, like anytime they weren't playing it, it would go and just like feedback, you know? And so because their equipment couldn't not do that, they're like, well, we might as well incorporate this in some place, you know? And it's like, yeah, you're not going to get that by like punching it into fucking Midjourney.
Yeah. Yeah.
like
as a complete aside, have you seen that clip of Jimmy Corrigan eating chips on stage?
No.
It's like they're at a performance, they're performing, and like there's a guitar solo happening, and he just kind of like walks into the back and opens up a bag of chips and starts eating chips.
Or I'm sorry, Billy Corgan. We both
Billy
said
Corgan.
Jimmy. We both said Jimmy Corgan, which is Chris
Smartest
Ware's
boy on earth.
Yeah, which is Acme Novelty Library.
Yeah, Billy, not Jimmy.
These fucking nerds, man. I'm gonna have to give myself a wedgie. So what are you reading?
So I have a rant about television, and my mother was here for Thanksgiving, and so while we took a lot of time off, I didn't have a lot of time to read stuff, but manga reads pretty quickly, so I read some manga. I read Dan to Dan Volume 5 came out.
Shit.
It's by Yukinobu Tatsu. I think I got that right. Dan to Dan just got announced that it's going to have an anime, so a trailer dropped for that. The trailer looks fucking bonkers. It looks so good. There's a lot of just like amazing movement that happens within Dan to Dan that the trailer, I was like, I don't know if they're going to animate it well, because in comics, like the in between panels that you're animating in your mind are always going to be better than the animation that somebody else makes,
Oh yeah.
And this book is just so dynamic and interesting that I was like, I don't know how they're going to do this, but the trailer was really great. And I was like, maybe they could do this. I don't know. We'll see.
Real quick recap. What's Dan to Dan about again?
Dan to Dan is about a high school nerd who is super into cryptids, and a girl who's like cute that he kind of likes, who's super into aliens. And she's like cryptids aren't real, and or it might be flipped. I can't remember, but basically she's like cryptids aren't real, and he's like aliens aren't real, and then they swap. I think it might be swapped. Anyway, there's a lot of swapping happening. Anyway, the point is that like one thinks that the other thing isn't real, and then so they're like, okay, you go to this haunted location and you go to this UFO hotspot, and then we'll see what's up. And but like one gets possessed by a kaiju, or not a kaiju. One gets possessed by a yokai who's like Turbo Granny. She's like a grandmother that runs really fast, but then they manage to separate her power from herself, and they put her into one of those like lucky cats. So like, that cat kind of wanders around and like is surly and mean to everybody, but doesn't have any actual power. And then she gets abducted by aliens, and her like latent psychic powers come out because of it. And so like they fight aliens, they fight cryptids. So if you're into aliens and cryptids, like every volume has some sort of fight with some riff on either, aliens or cryptids or whatever. Like they fought Nessie in an issue. They fought in the 5th one, they fight Mongolian deathworm cryptid. It's all very, very good, and it's through the lens of manga, so it's has a Japanese flair to it, which like when I watch a lot of cryptid stuff, because I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're all about it.
It has a kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. There's an American style to making like a documentary about a ghost, or like a documentary about a cryptid or whatever. And this basically takes all that and is like, hey, what if we just like move quick and break things, And it's like, yeah, let's go. All the designs are fucking insane. Like they're all just like, and I can't tell if this is because I haven't read a lot of manga in my lifetime, but when I'm reading Dan to Dan, it feels like somebody who is very much not me making a comic book, which I appreciate, because it's like, it's new, it's exciting, the character designs are wild, it's stuff I would have never thought of, and it like bends my brain to another place,
Oh yeah. No, one of my favorite things, I think, especially about like Japanese comics in particular, is that there's such a dense history to it. you know? And
Yeah.
so whenever I read a manga, there's like, I'm almost positive every time there's some sort of like artistic reference that like if I grew up in Japan and was reading
Sure,
it,
you
I'd be
would
like,
pick up on this, but
yeah,
it's like,
yeah, yeah. Well, it's like, you know what? It's like how a while back in the main in the main episode feed, how we talk about how ever since like sometimes like an artist like Kelly Jones will like draw a dead man and then like forever that's just like that's how you draw a dead man now, you know?
right.
And I'm sure there's probably like references like that with like someone drawing a character in a certain way where someone's like,
Sure.
oh, he's doing that or he's doing like that.
He's referencing this obscure thing that like never left Japan, and like I don't know what it is, and so it's just completely, I'm just stranger in a strange land with these books.
Yeah. And even just styles too, and like ways of pacing and like ways of like showing action that like well, and you know, like you said, like I think you probably have a bit more of knowledge of Japanese comics than you give yourself credit for. I mean, I'm definitely not like as
Maybe
well versed as I would want to be. I mean, same with like European comics, but like I think a bit more probably than like your average like just like American.
Maybe more than your average comic reader, but I mean, there are people who really dive into it. And,
oh yeah, there are people who like eat and breathe and like live all of this stuff, which love them. But I just I got
variety.
my other, I need my snooty drawn and quarterly stuff. Okay.
So while they're trying to fight this Mongolian deathworm, they also have this like triangle happening where like, so the main character, he's trying to impress Miss Elise, and like he's like kind of romantically involved with her, but he's like trying to figure it out. And you know, they're high school kids, so you know, they don't really know how to share their feelings, and they're kind of like stumbling in the dark. And then this book features a character from her past that comes to visit, who's like this super athletic, sporty dude, and the nerd kid's like, what the fuck, you know, like, and he's like super charming, but they kind of get along, and he's like, all right, and his house is haunted, and you know, there's a secret room, and there's a fucking killer family, and they're burying houses. It's crazy, Jason. The book is crazy. Every single time I pick it up, I'm like, I'm always waiting for it to calm down, and it never does.
Fuck yeah.
In the best way. Like, I'm always having a good time with this thing.
The other week I was watching a Fellini movie, and you know, and it's Fellini, so he's weird anyway. Like he's just a weird guy. But there's a particular like, whenever I watch like an Italian film, like especially like a Fellini or like even like Dario Argento, like, you know, which is like polar opposite of style. But there's like this great sort of like, I was thinking about it, this great kind of weirdness that is unto the culture itself that they're from, you know? There's this like, that you're just never going to, I'm not smart enough to really put my finger on or articulate it that well, but like there's just something very like obviously Italian about it because the man is Italian, right?
Yeah.
And like same thing with like it's something I love about like Japanese movies or books, or you know, from any country really, of like when especially when they get weird, you know,
when they get to make art.
Yeah, because there's that particular kind of like, you know, like listen, like Japanese speed metal it's speed metal. It's super fast, like lots of solos, but man, sometimes they get really wild with it, and I'm like, fuck yeah, Japanese speed metal, you know, like there's just something. Like I said, I can't put my finger on it, but I do love that kind of like you said, like you wait for it to calm down. It's like, no, this is manga, baby. Manga doesn't have to calm down if it doesn't want to, you know, like it just keeps going. keeps going, you know.
Speaking of manga, DC put out a couple of manga titles, and I picked them both up. I found myself in a Target buying a pan that we needed for Thanksgiving, and I was like, I'm gonna check out their comics. And so I picked up Superman Meshi, which is a manga. It's written and drawn by Satoshi. Jason, and I apologize for butchering these names. I'm going to do the best I can. Satoshi Miyagawa and Kai Kitago. It is Superman has to deal with Steppenwolf shows up in Japan and starts harassing people in a parking lot. And then Superman flies in and kicks his ass. And then in doing so, he saves this noodle truck, right? And so the noodle truck guy is like, he's like, I only have leftovers, but here, take this. And so Superman tries it, and he is like, oh my God. He's like, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. So it's 7 stories about Superman, like basically trying to get the hell out of the Daily Planet so that he can fly to Japan and like eat wonderful dishes in various places.
Oh God, that's amazing.
And it's he goes to like a convenience store in Japan, and he's like, this is amazing. And he's like stranger in a strange land, experiencing it for the first time, loving every minute of it. It's beautifully drawn with like all these like food stuffs, but it's don't get me wrong, it is not about him fighting Steppenwolf. It is about Superman sitting down and describing the food he's eating. That's what this book is about.
So it's a Superman story, but like there's this wonderful classic Japanese movie called Tampopo that centers around a noodle shop, and it's like revitalization of this like small local noodle shop.
I remember wanting to see that.
Oh, dude, it's on the Criterion Channel.
Yeah.
It is so good. I love that movie so much, but the movie is it's such a literal fucking love letter to food, and specifically obviously to Japanese like food. It is so like lovingly, so like it's I love that shit. I love that shit.
He Superman at one point laments the fact that he can't bring Lois to Japan to try this food with him because he doesn't want to like risk his secret identity. He Batman notices that he's eating a lot of Japanese food, so he brings him to like the best Japanese restaurant in Gotham, and then Superman's like, no, this is bullshit. And then he like basically grabs Batman and flies to Japan.
I love how it turned Superman into a food snob.
Oh man, he starts taking like Instagram pics of his food. He sets up like like it's Jason. It's such a if you're into this kind of stuff, and he'll try a piece of food and he'll love it so much his heat vision will activate. You know, like it's just such a wild, unique take on a character that, like, you know, I've been reading stories about my entire life. It's existed since the fucking 40s, you know, and this is like something that is wholly original. And so I believe that it deserves merit for that.
Oh, yeah. And what a great random pickup, too.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So it's marked as volume 1. I don't know how many volumes we're going to get of Superman eating food. He's like, there's a part where he's like eating, it's like a variety bowl over rice. And he's like, which part would be the Justice League? Like, Wonder Woman would be the shrimp, you know, like, and Batman would be this. And he's like going on and on. It's just very fun. Like I said, 7 stories. They're all like, forgive the pun, a little bite-sized adventure of Superman.
You know what though? I want this series, because you said it was volume 1. I want it to be like as long as Lone Wolf and Cub. Okay. I want like 45
just let it
books
run. Just let it run.
and never change it. It's just about Superman loving food.
Yeah.
You can always, each volume begins with Superman ending up somewhere chasing a villain, but the villain's quickly dispatched, and then he just goes insane about the food. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
The other manga that DC put out when they were trying to like try this out is called Joker, One Operation Joker. It is by Satoshi Miyagawa again, and drawn by Kitsuke Gato. So this book is drawn a little better than Superman. If you're looking for pure artistic value, I would say the Joker book's a little bit better. This book is about Joker's fighting Batman in some chemical plant, of course, and Joker
always ends up in a chemical plant.
The thing about this book, these manga as well, is that like they're doing something that American comics don't do that much anymore, which is like give you word or thought balloons. So so it puts you in the head of the Joker, and the way that it's written, it's not this like chaotic thing that you would imagine the mind of the Joker to be. Like there's moments where he's like worried about his footing while he's fighting Batman and stuff like that. Like it really tries to like put you into the practicality of like, yes, you're the Joker. Yes, you're insane, but also you are a person existing in the world.
You have these other things to think about. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I actually thought was like a pretty interesting take, because usually people just go like full insano whenever they write the Joker.
Yeah.
So he fights Batman. A railing breaks over a vat of chemicals. Batman falls in. And Joker's like, Joker needs Batman, because how else will he illustrate that justice is like a construct that should be torn down, that it's fake, that it's for the wealthy, fuck this shit, like anarchy rules. How can he prove that without Batman being there,
Yeah.
So fishes him out of the pot of chemicals, and turns out Batman's a baby now. So he's like, oh shit, Batman's a baby. And then he's like, I gotta raise this child. Cause he's like, he's in a relationship with Batman, and he needs Batman. So he's like, oh damn, I gotta raise this bat child. And so it's about like the Joker trying to get like little Batman into like preschool, and his like henchman's like helping him out, but he's like, because he's like raised a couple kids and abandoned them at some point, so he's like, oh, I'll walk you through what to do, and like and it like
raised and abandoned children, so he's the most qualified parent within reach.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
that's a great gag. And like, that's a really good gag.
There's a good bit in it where like the Joker, like the kid's running him ragged, and the goon shows up, and the Joker's not in his makeup. Like he's got white skin, and green hair, but he's not in his makeup. And he's like, the goon's kind of like, well, are you the Joker? He's like, you kind of can't tell. And he's like, oh, this kid's running me ragged. Like, I just need a minute to myself to put on my face,
He's just like, yeah, the beleaguered parent who like hasn't showered and barely slept in 3 days.
Like he goes and gets diapers, but he buys the wrong size because he doesn't know that they come in different sizes, and he's frustrated, and he's like, Gotham will burn for this, like it's a genuinely great read, especially if you're a parent. I'm not a parent, but like I can imagine if I was, this would be probably hit pretty close to home.
Yeah, it'd be pretty funny. What a great fucking idea too. What just like a very fun, silly idea, and then just to like totally run with it. Like,
so man. Yeah, I wanted to push these books because it's DC trying something kind of interesting. They're trying to get into the manga market, and whether they stay there, whether they make a bunch of these, or if these are the only volumes that come out, I think it's worth picking up.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, that sounds I gotta try to let's see if they're on the app.
I think they are on the app because I remember reading the first chapters of both of these books digitally. And then when I saw them in Target, I was like, oh, hell yeah, let's go.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I think you can get them on the app. Don't read Superman Meshi while you're hungry. That's my piece of advice to you. The other thing is, Jason, I've started like kind of thinking about television a lot, just like the scope of television and what television is now. Shannon's watching True Blood, so I've been catching a couple episodes of that. And then we're also watching Supernatural. And this is going to make sense in a little while. But let me back up a little bit. There used to be the way TV was in like the 50s, 60s. It was like you got a pure ep, like an episode that was totally in isolation. Like you would have, the status quo would be reestablished by the end. And then if you missed an episode, it wasn't a big deal because you already knew what was going to happen. Or like, it's like the A-Team. They like go to the next town, they solve a problem. They go to the next town, they solve a problem. Or like sitcoms like Cheers, Dick Van Dyke, Honeymooners, Jeffersons, Family Matters, Friends, Office, Parks and Recreation. It's like you always like some things might change a little bit, but you always know that like The Office is going to be about being in the office, you know?
Yeah. You might have a 2-episode season finale thing, or like, the last 3 episodes are like some bigger story that they want to end the season with. But,
mostly you could just like hit shuffle and then like play whatever and you'd be good to go. Yeah. And a lot of stuff was like this. A-Team, $6 Million Man, Batman the Animated Series is like this. Dragnet, 70s Incredible Hulk,
original flavor, Law and Order.
Yeah. Early Star Trek, MASH is like this. And then like skits shows are like this too. SNL, Twilight Zone, Carol Burnett Show, stuff like that.
Yeah, Kids in the Hall.
Kids in the Hall. So there's that type of television that's being made. And then on the other side of that, on the flip side, is soap operas that are running. And soap operas are structured to be just basically one run-on sentence that you are like constantly tuning into to see like what's going to happen to these characters, Yeah. And they put these characters in progressively like weirder situations or like quirky times. They give a little fan service or whatever. And they usually have the same villain throughout the entire thing, or season to season might change or whatever.
Yeah. Villains reoccur and reappear. People don't stay dead forever. Soap operas are a lot like comic books.
Yes. So for a long time, like that was television. And then there was like this genre that started happening where it kind of like blended these two things. And I think that it started happening because, VHS came around in the 70s, and then suddenly every home in the 80s had one. So if you wanted to watch an episode, you could catch it, even if you were out, you could program your VCR, you could catch it. So we start seeing things like these blended eps where you get a villain for a season or an entire show, but it's like a genre drama. This is kind of what I think comic books mostly are, where it's like, you get a lot of reoccursion stuff like Dark Shadows in 66 is like a goth horror soap opera. Buffy, X-Files, Supernatural, Twin Peaks, Gilmore Girls, stuff like this, where it's like you get a progressing plot every episode, but it's still kind of an episode in there. You know what I mean? Like there's still a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
A lot of prestige TV lives in here. Sex and the City, Sopranos, 6 Feet Under, The Wire, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what I noticed was I've been watching TV for a long time. a long time. I've been subscribed to streaming services for a long time. And
Yeah.
I've been watching less and less movies. And I think streaming services took movies from me.
Yep.
I think that what happened was around like the mid 2000s, maybe late 2000s, they started to realize that like, well, we can make one thing, drag it out for, 20 episodes and people will stay and watch. Or we can make one thing for 2 hours for a movie. And then we got to make another thing because we got to keep people engaged in the app.
Yeah, because only so many people are going to rewatch the movie again and again and again.
Right, exactly. But like, if we can hook them in, then like maybe we can get them to keep like watching in this one kind of run-on sentence. And so these things kind of like blended together. And like, I wouldn't say that like, The Wire, I don't think leans into soap opera, but like True Blood does. Like, and I was watching True Blood and I was like, this is hot garbage, but people were like obsessed with it when it was released. Yeah. It was a phenomenon.
Well, it's just like, and to be fair to these shows, because I've never watched any of them and I truly don't mean to disparage them, but like any of the like the CW shows that have like those rabid fan bases, or like Pretty Little Liars, or
I was gonna say Riverdale.
Yeah, any of the DC shows that have the like Green Arrow was like to me it always just looked like what in my head I just kind of called like higher production value soap opera.
So this is the thing. I think that there's alongside prestige television, like there's a thing that happened where executives realized that if they made them more like soap operas and less structured, then like they could hook you in for a long haul. And then fans got hooked in. Like people got hooked into True Blood. People made fanfic of True Blood. And then I feel like this has been iterized and iterized and iterized to the point where it's been like a weaponized thing of like, we're going to hook you in and we're going to try to keep you, and you're going to feel like you have like sunk cost, or you like a certain character and you want to see what's going to happen next, but it never really pays off in a meaningful way. This like fanfic written thing. And like True Blood, I feel like is that way. Riverdale is that way. And I really like Riverdale. I think Riverdale's a cool show.
Yeah.
But like, it's like these shows got slick production value. And I feel like along the way, they tricked me into thinking that they're prestige TV. Somewhere along the way, The Shield tried to sell itself to me as The Wire. And it's not. It's definitely not.
I do like I do think the Shield though has like I do want to rewatch it again, because especially that brutal ass ending. But like the Shield specifically, I think is like, actually no, I do think it's a pretty good example, because like it's something that people love aping the style of, and because of like the success that it had. But like I don't think that like, I think a lot of times what people lost in the Shield was that like, or at least the things they were inspired by, which Kurt Sutter, who's the guy who went on, he used to write for the Shield, and he's the guy who went on to create Sons of Anarchy, which is like, and it seems like he only really seemed to understand kind of like the superficial level of the Shield, and it's just like, and it's just like, well, no, in the Shield at least, like its over the topness was supposed to be like, no, this is what these people are really like. This is what the cops are really like. Right. They are this brutal. They are this. Like,
but
that
it's an exaggeration. It's not as sophisticated as The Wire.
No.
Like The Wire is prestige television, and The Shield is like a dramatization of what people think cops are, kind of thing.
Yeah, and and like it's kind of like what we were saying before. It's like everything with movies. It's like Jackie Chan movies in the Criterion Collection, like of course, because like they're movies too. I'm not to say it doesn't have its place.
Look, straight up, like I rattle off a lot of shows. Like there is no judgment happening here. I'm just like, this is me realizing that like there's been this concerned effort by streaming services to create this kind of like fanfic television that looks like prestige TV to hook you in. And then what it does is it gives you drama between characters, and it like is aware of how people are talking about television, and then wants to not only hook you in, but plug you into a fandom that is going to constantly talk about it.
Yeah.
And they have like over the course of like the last 10 or 15 years, absolutely weaponized this. And
oh yeah,
Jason, I feel like I've been watching this over and over and over and over again. And I'm only now just starting to be like, hey, wait a minute. Like, I'm sure smarter people than me have figured this out already. But like the MCU, for example, I feel like is like this. Star Wars is like this now. Okay, let's circle back to Supernatural, because I feel like Supernatural is a perfect show to illustrate this. So Supernatural, the creator, did 5 seasons and he was out. Like, I think the first 5 seasons of Supernatural is prestige television. Then they do another 5. It's a hot take. Then they do another 5 seasons where they try to do Villain of the Week, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Right. And then
those are fun.
Those are fun. And then they realize that like what the fans want is like heartfelt moments between like Dean and Castiel, and like all these characters like Pinball and Ren. They want to bring some characters back. We're the sheriff that they saved is back in this episode, and like we're gonna see what happened to them. And like it's the show in the last 5 seasons. And I haven't finished Supernatural in the last couple seasons, but we're up to season 10 right now. And I'm realizing that they're shifting away from like, it's no longer a show about like a vamp attack. It's a show about like
damn vamps.
The vamp attack is secondary to like the bromance that's happening on stage for the fanfic, for the fans who are like engaging with it. And like, that's what they like, you know?
Yeah. No, I can't get like I left behind. I only saw when it came out. I only saw Rise of Skywalker. I knew it was gonna suck. I liked The Last Jedi. I only saw Rise of Skywalker to like finish the story, and you know, it was awful as it is. But it's
like, another hot take.
Really? It's I thought
I don't know,
Rise
man.
of Skywalker's pretty.
I wouldn't call it awful. This is okay. This is part of a component
Palpatine's
of,
back somehow. Like, no, I'm sorry. That's just straight up bad.
All right. Look. This is part of like the fanfic thing where it's like it's more important to get a scene together than it is to create a cohesive like a structure to the thing. Like the structure is secondary. The thing that you want is the juicy interaction between characters. And I think that movie is that, you know, it's cool visuals. It's juicy interactions between characters, and then structure. Yeah. We'll figure it out later. That kind of thing.
Yeah. See, like, I don't like talk about it a lot because like, I have a lot of friends who are like really into those kinds of shows. Like they love those kinds of shows. Like they love Andor. They love like The Mandalorian, like all these things. Yeah. And I'm sure
I love Andor and The Mandalorian. Like
I hear great things about them, but there's a part of me that I look at it, and no matter how many raving reviews I hear about Andor, I'm just like, it's Star Wars. I don't give a shit. I can find a story like Andor that is not Star Wars, and I'm just so tired. Like
we're dovetailing into my point, which is this: that people are talking about superhero fatigue happening right now with movies and shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, fair.
And what I think is happening is not necessarily superhero fatigue. I think it's fanfic fatigue. I think that like you can pull the superheroes out and like make a story that has like all these beats and less structure like people are making now, and it's designed to hook you in, it's designed to keep you, but like I've never felt like really satisfied by a lot of the new television that I watch. And I'm realizing that they want eyeballs on their app and they don't give a shit about anything else.
Yeah.
And I've also kind of woken up to the fact that like I haven't watched a lot of movies in like fucking 20 years because I got hooked in with The Wire and to prestige television. And then I've been there ever since.
Oh,
And so I'm trying, Jason, I'm trying to break out. I'm trying to watch some movies. Finally start watching some cinema. So anyway, Shannon and I watched a Spider-Man movie, the new Miles Morales cartoon that was fucking ripped.
The Spider-Verse. Yeah. I loved Into the Spider-Verse. See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's my thing though, is that like I think that like this has been brought up by other people, but I firmly agree with it. But it's sort of like there's a lot of like whatever people consider quote unquote prestige TV these days, however you define that, where it's like it could have been an email. Okay. It's like a lot of those things were obviously like movie scripts that they then stretch the hell out. And it's just like, listen, man, not every
the
story
Obi-Wan show,
needs 8 hours.
Transparently, the Obi-Wan show was a movie turned into an 8-hour series. Buddy of ours, Ziggy, he's like, I can't watch this. He's like, the episodes make no sense. Like there's no beginning, middle, and end. It's like an 8-hour movie. He's like, I just can't.
And also though, what's so like, I mean, I know why, because they want the most money that they can get, like squeeze out of it. But like, that just made me think of like, remember how like Disney used to like have straight to VHS releases sequels of like Aladdin and of like all these.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like you can still make them. It's like, hey, Disney, you could have just still had a 2 to even 3 hour Obi-Wan movie and people would have gobbled it the fuck up. But like you said, they're not going to continuously over and over again gobble it up, keep on talking about it, write fan fiction about it, like reference it again and again and again and again, and like go back to it again and again and again and again if it's just
I think that
a movie.
This is so I'm starting to realize this for myself at the same time that I'm like pushing back on social media a little bit and trying to get more creative myself, and then also be conscious of the technology and the media that enters my home and that I consume. So I'm like, rather than just going with the flow, like I'm a very, there's like a lot of ADD going on, and like I'm very easily influenced by people. When people are like, hey, this is good, I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll check it out. Like whatever. I don't give a fuck. I'll watch anything. And a lot of that stuff.
What you read, Nick? Oh, just this bottle of Dr. Bronner's Castile soap. Hold on a minute. I'm getting to the best part about the one God. Hold on.
So a lot of this stuff, like I love, like I said, I really like Riverdale, but I would put Riverdale into this fanfic kind of box. Yeah. It's not prestige television. It's not episodic television. It's not really a soap opera. It's this like fanfic weaponized eyeballs into the app thing. Yeah. And I'm starting to see it now a little bit clearer. And I'm starting to see what they took from me, Jason. And I'm ready to watch some cinema again. If that still exists, I might have to go back to the 80s and 90s to find it, but like it's out there, man.
Fire up that the Criterion channel. There's a Criterion channel. I used to have a subscription to this great service called Mubi that has newer indie films. I couldn't quite get around to like using it enough to like justify keeping it. But it's out there. And also just real quick though, like anybody like, this is coming from two lifelong comic book nerds, right? Like so one of the reasons why I hate the term graphic novel, never liked it, never will like it, is that I got over pretty quick when I was a kid, right when Understanding Comics came out. I still love Understanding Comics, but like for a while, I was really defensive about comics as an art form. And then like at like a certain point in my early 20s, I was like, wait a minute, I don't fucking care. I don't need your goddamn approval. I don't need some fucking gallery to say that it's art or not. It's like, yeah, sure, fine. Roy Lichtenstein can like steal a bunch of shit and be this like great artist. Fuck him. I don't care. And like, fuck anyone who thinks he's a great artist for doing that, because I don't need his shit. So it's like, you know what? If you want to write your fan fiction about Andor, about Rise of Skywalker,
go for it.
The only thing I would implore anybody to do with any of their fandom or something is don't give a shit if somebody thinks it's valid or not. Like if you're getting enjoyment out of it and you love it, fuck everyone else. You don't need someone else to take it seriously for it to matter.
And it doesn't need to be justified. You don't need to fight on its behalf. Like you can just enjoy it. Just enjoy it.
And if you're feeling bad because someone else is making you feel bad because like they're calling you a child or something like that, because you're like, I don't know, you're like a 30-year-old man and you're really into the Owl House like cartoon. It's like, who gives a shit? If you like it, then you like it, and like you don't need to stop worrying about trying to justify the things that you like to other people to like seem like adult.
Sure.
Right. You know,
I'm just talking about the landscape of television. I'm not passing judgment on any of this stuff.
No, I don't think you were.
But like the MCU, the movies are basically television episodes because they all connect, and it's all about these characters like pinballing around together. It's more about Tony Stark saying to Spider-Man, "You're embarrassing me in front of the wizards," than it is about like creating a cohesive kind of thing. And that's not to say that it can't do that. It can do both.
Yeah. But Spider-Verse.
Like, yeah, but it doesn't always. And I'm seeing more and more the deficiencies and the like trying to like glamour me into thinking that it's prestige television when it's just fucking not, you know?
Yeah. Well, because you know what, we talk about it with the mainline bat books that like we sometimes give them breaks on the art or on the writing, because you're just like, it's like there's that churn, man. There's that deadline. You got to hit that deadline. It's like, all right, the new MCU movie's got to come out. It's got to come out. All right, I know this is a hacky edit, but I got to edit it together, and I got to get it
right.
Shipped and out there. So like that's kind of what happens in the churn as well. Even if you're trying to take this thing that isn't supposed to be super, hoity-toity or whatever, like and you still want to make it good, but when you have like 5 fucking minutes to do it and then you have to go on to the next one, it's like you're like, well, I gotta eat. you know?
So at any rate, I hope to bring some movies to the podcast in the future, because I'm like trying to shrug off my addiction to television in general. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Do that up.
Jason.
Nick.
Where can people find you?
They can find me still at honest to God, still surprisingly, I don't think Twitter can die. If Elon Musk hasn't killed Twitter by now,
I don't know, man.
I don't know if it can die.
He's floating the idea of like where everybody has to pay $1 to be part of Twitter, and I think that will kill it.
Yeah, that's why he hasn't done it. Because he owes the Saudi royal family way too much money to completely kill. Yeah. But anyway, they can find me there.
Those aren't people you want to be in with.
What are you talking about? I've heard they're very nice people who've never dismembered and chopped up a critical journalist before.
Really? Yeah. I'm shocked. I'm really in the news.
Hey, listen, Jamal El Khashoggi, if you're hearing this,
I was texting with him a while back. I haven't heard from him in a while.
Or was Khashoggi the journalist they murdered? Anyway, the Saudis, House of Saud, please don't murder me.
This took a turn. I just want your socials, Jason, for God's fucking sake. Like, come on.
But you can find me at King of Black Acid on Twitter. Also, world's second finest, this world's second with the 2 on the Twitter machine. Still trying to get the Blue Sky up going. That they're so stingy with their with their invites and multiple accounts.
Yeah, you got to make a separate email address. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm over there on Blue Sky, mostly on Discord though, because like I said, I'm pushing back from social media a little bit. If you want to get in touch with me, Discord's the best way to do it. My Discord link is at linktree.com/Nickfil. So you can find all my links to everything up there. I will respond eventually on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, but it's just going to take me a little while since I don't use those platforms all that much anymore.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Well, thank you for listening.